If you want to start shopping secondhand, but you were tired of just finding junk, you're gonna love today's video because I'm going to share all of my tips and tricks. And some of you are probably thinking, Kiva, I didn't even know you shop secondhand. Yeah, exactly. Because my finds are so good, you think I'm buying them at designer stores. Now, before we get into all of my tips and tricks, I do want to say a huge thank you to Rocket Money for sponsoring today's video, but I'll tell you more about them later on. Let's get into it. Now, the first and most important tip to shopping secondhand is to go often. Whether you're going to a thrift store, a consignment shop, an antique store, a salvage store, you need to go all the time. The inventory is always changing. Next time you go to a store, ask the people who work there what days they get new trucks, what days they put up new inventory. For some places, it's every day. A lot of places, it's like a Thursday. So know when the new inventory comes and make it a part of your routine. Maybe you go during your lunch break. Maybe that's your, thing you do after church every Sunday. Make it a part of your routine, because if you don't go very often, you're not gonna find something great. I've gone to a thrift store on one day and found absolute junk, and then gone the next day and come home with like $50 worth of things and tons of amazing scores. So if you don't go often, you're not going to get something wonderful, because it all has to do with who donated that week, what they decided to put out that week, how much space was on the shelves, and things like that. Tip number 2 is to explore each and every section. So a lot of times when people go into thrift stores, they'll just go to lighting or they just go to decor. No store, it doesn't matter what store it is, does a perfect job of putting things in the correct locations. Some stores don't know what something is. Maybe someone, was just like absent-minded or thinking about something else. And 3, you should always explore every section, because you have no idea what they're going to have. For example, I found this lamp in like the wood section of my local thrift store. Had I not looked here, I wouldn't have found this lamp. It has so much texture, it is the right color, it's so on trend, and all I had to do was add a lampshade that is very much so my interior design style, and a battery operated rechargeable light bulb, and I was able to get a brand new huge statement lamp, something that would go for like $150 online, for just $10.99 at my local thrift store. Had I not explored those other sections, I would not have gotten such an amazing score. Now, I love shopping secondhand, and it's something that I love to do because not only do you get things with a lot of character, but a lot of times you get to save money. And right now, we are actually finally making our way kind of out of Pittsburgh. I love it here, but we're making steps to move out of the city, and that means we're saving tons of money. And with this new life goal on the horizon, I definitely want to be shopping secondhand, and I also want to be shopping a whole lot smarter, which is exactly why I love using Rocket Money. And I do want to say thanks again to Rocket Money for sponsoring today's video. Rocket Money is an all-in-one personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better. You guys have heard me talk about Rocket Money before, obviously, because I love it, but I love using Rocket Money to cancel subscriptions because I have so many subscriptions, it's kind of sad. And that money really starts to add up. Once you connect your bank account, Rocket Money identifies all of your subscriptions in a single list. From there, you can select the ones you don't want anymore, and Rocket Money may be able to help you cancel it with just a few taps. I also love to use Rocket Money to automate my savings, because savings are huge when you're trying to buy a house, right? Rocket Money automatically analyzes your accounts so that you know the optimal time to save, and of course, this helps you reach your goals faster. All you have to do is choose your savings goal, select your preferred frequency, and then your savings are just gonna grow from there. You can edit, pause, and withdraw at any time, and I love that, again, your savings are automated, so it just becomes a part of your daily life. To save more and spend less and join the over 5 million members of Rocket Money today, go to rocketmoney.com/DIY with KB to get started for free. Or just click the link down in my description box. You not only need to explore every single section, but you need to be open to the concept that some of these things are old, they might be dirty, they might not be well taken care of, so you may need to give them a facelift. Maybe you need to rub and buff something. Maybe you need to give them a wash. Maybe you need to repurpose them. You need to be open-minded. If you're walking and saying, hey, I want to find this perfect vase that looks just like this designer store that has no imperfections, you're going to be disappointed, because that's just not realistic. You might need to totally paint something. You might need to use it for an alternative purpose. You just need to be open-minded. I think when we are shopping at, the standard store, we're saying, I want to get exactly what I want because I'm paying this price for it. Well, when we have a reduced price, sometimes we have to put in a little bit of work, but that also gives it character. That also gives it a little bit of love, and maybe you like it a little bit more because you had to put in some effort to acquire it. You also need to keep in mind, not only do a lot of these stores not clean these items for you, but they also don't style them for you. So you might see a lamp or a vase and you're thinking, ugh, this is kind of ugly. But this vase, for example, I saw it and I was like, oh, this is kind of ugly. But then I was like, oh my gosh, I could put florals in each of these different holes and make it look really overflowing. And this could be a real statement piece. Other examples of this in my home include these candlestick holders. So I got these at Goodwill. They were $3.99, $4.99, and $5.99. They were in different parts of the store. So I needed to find them all because they were all in a set, but they weren't actually put on the shelves in a set. So I would have missed them had I not explored all of the sections. Well, I use these with LED candles sometimes for a nice little glow. They're in a bathroom, so I don't want to use real candles because I don't want to set anything on fire, obviously. But I also just stack toilet paper on them. It's a great way to, have a novel toilet paper stand that also is kind of stylistic, adding a little bit of metal, adding a little bit of ruggedness, and it's something that you don't see all the time. So I decided to repurpose them. Do they still work for their original purpose? Yes, but I also can use them in a different way if I so choose. And the next tip I have for you when you are secondhand shopping is to walk around with a device. I don't care what device it is, but you definitely want to have a device because you want to be able to reverse image search something. You want to take a picture of an item that you have interest in and look at it and say, hey, how much is this going for online? Is this a good price? Is this a bad price? Should I buy this? It's also good to have your device because you can look at your inspiration boards. You should always be secondhand shopping with inspiration because the stores can be really overwhelming. They're either really big warehouses or they have 50 million different things. And you're like, well, how do I find the diamond in the rough? Or how do I just find the right thing for me? If you have your inspiration board, you can say, okay, I'm looking for a vase. I'm looking for a lamp. I'm looking for a rug, and kind of get an idea. Or even something more granular, like I'm looking for this shape. I'm looking for this texture, because that's how things can kind of evolve and like create something beautiful when you're shopping secondhand. Now, hear me when I say this. This is probably the most important tip I'm going to share in today's video, but shopping secondhand doesn't mean something is always going to be cheap. I think that's a common misconception. Of course, you can go someplace and you'll get something for $3.99 and $4.99, but my coffee table is a really great example. A coffee table like mine, which is solid marble, goes online for prices like $4,000 or $5,000. Well, I found mine online on a secondhand shopping place for $400. Now, if you're just thinking about secondhand $400, you're like, $400? That is a lot of money, which it is, but $400 for something like this is an absolute steal. So you kind of have to shift your mindset when it comes to things like this. And with that, I kind of want to pivot into talking about how we shop online secondhand. So of course, you can use resources like Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and OfferUp, and they're really, really amazing. But you need to learn how to use those tools. So first, you need to train your algorithm. Just like you have to go to your thrift store every single week, or not every day, but every single week, you also need to be on those apps on a regular frequency, because when you like things, when you save things, when you message people, those apps algorithms learn you. Therefore, they're able to make better recommendations. So if you're searching for mid-century modern, search mid-century modern, search MCM, search vintage MCM, search Art Deco MCM. Do all of those different qualifiers and all those different combinations in the search bar so that the algorithm starts to learn you. Even if you see things that aren't in your radius or aren't perfectly your style, but are kind of your style, but maybe out of your budget, like them anyways, because again, the algorithm will learn you and therefore recommend more items like this. Something else I want you to do is stop setting your radius to like 5 miles. Someone within 5 miles of you might not have something amazing. My coffee table, again, it was in Washington, DC. I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's like 4.5 hours, but I had my best friend go pick it up because he lives in Baltimore. And the next time I went to go visit my family, I picked it up. So I made it into a trip that I was going to take anyway, and I was able to get this score nice and home. So use your friends, use your network, say, hey, can you pick this up on Facebook Marketplace for me? Maybe I'll buy you dinner or something like that. It's a great way to get things outside of your radius. With that, another amazing find I got was this lamp. So this lamp was like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from me, but I loved it. I fell in love with it. I spoke to the lady and I just drove out there. So make a day of it, right? So maybe stop at a bunch of thrift stores or a bunch of vintage stores. I stopped at like 3 different vintage stores on my way, a few other home decor stores, and I just made it into a day so that it didn't feel like, oh, I'm wasting all this gas to go 2 hours each way. It was just like a fun day with my spouse, and we got a lot of good home decor and we left feeling inspired, which I thought was really amazing. The next piece of advice that I have is to just shop local. So instead of saying, oh, I'm looking for this particular item, just look what's local, because sometimes people do not know how to list things. These people who are selling on these websites websites aren't necessarily antique dealers or furniture dealers. So maybe they'll say something is MCM, but it's really contemporary or it's really glam. Sometimes people just don't know. So put that in the search bar. You can also put brand names in the search bar. This is the way that I was able to get a RH rug that was originally, I think it was $7,500 for $430 on Marketplace. Was it the heaviest rug ever? And did I also then pay for it to get deep cleaned because it's an upholstery in someone else's home? Yes, but all in all, I think I spent around $800 as opposed to the $7,500, and it was a 10 by 14 rug. So think about what that would cost, just like even a cheap rug. You would never get something that affordable. So you need to be open to doing a little bit of work to get the things you love secondhand. Another great way to save money, whether you're shopping in person or online, is to try and bundle items. A lot of people will give you a discount if you will bundle items together. Most prices are up for negotiation when you're shopping secondhand, so don't lowball people, but also be like, hey, could I throw this in for maybe $10 more? Or, oh, maybe I'm not willing to pay $250. Would you be open to $225? And just have a conversation. Also on things, you know, people aren't checking these things constantly unless it's their full-time business. There's nothing wrong with, you know, sending a little follow-up message like, hey, I don't know if you saw this, but I'm still really, really interested. And one of the most important tips I want to share for shopping secondhand is to know the difference between a thrift store, a consignment store, an antique store, and a salvage store. So a salvage store is normally someone has done some architectural work and maybe they tore down something, or they're moving or doing a reno and they donate these items, or someone just like called the company and had them donate these items, and it's just a bunch of stuff. And you kind of have to figure out what works, what's kind of run down, how something's going to work, how you're going to refurbish it, and something like that. A thrift store is mostly just like normal people donating stuff, and they just throw things out. And you could get clothes, and you can get furniture, you can get lighting, and you can also get Tupperware and things like that. An antique store is a store that has already been curated for you. That means someone has appraised it, someone has looked at it and said, hey, I deem this worthy of being sold. So those items are probably going to be a little bit more expensive. Again, just because something is secondhand doesn't mean it's going to be cheap. One of my favorite places in Pittsburgh is Artifact. If you are here, you should go check it out. It is this, I think it's like a 4,000 square foot warehouse full of old things. They have tapestries. They have these art pieces that you see in my home. The big one, I think it was like around $1,500. That's not cheap. But tell me the last time you saw a painting that was 10 feet long, less than $2,000. I'll wait. You're not going to see that. And it was from a small artist that I never would have found. I never would have had access to this work had I not gone to this place. But there are things in that store that are $50,000, and there are things in that store that are $100. So they're really going to run the gamut. And I did have to do a little bit of bartering. But I knew walking into that store that that was an upper echelon store because it was an antique store versus like maybe my local Goodwill or Salvation Army. So again, the prices are just different, which is totally okay, but you need to keep that in mind. Same thing with a consignment store. They tend to be a little bit more expensive, a little bit in better shape than maybe a thrift store. So they do come at a premium. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you feel better equipped to do some secondhand shopping, and I can't wait to hear about all of your scores down in the description box. Now, if you want to get on top of your finances today and sign up for Rocket Money, go to rocketmoney.com/DIY with KB to get started for free today. Until next time, have a beautiful day.